Greetings, Dominionites. The principle of wealth transfer uh, is not as understood as it should be. Uh, you have many people who are familiar with the Bible, familiar with various parables of God blessing individuals, groups, nations with wealth, assets, and resources. They like to read about a certain person's or again groups challenges when they were seemingly doing without, and then they like to quickly skip over to the portion where they magically possess wealth, assets, and resources given to them by God. Uh, I believe that it's important for us to take a closer look at the process, realize that you can easily read a parable and people be in one situation and you turn the page and all of a sudden, wow, they are now wealthy and all of this kind of stuff. But it's important for us to use uh, our God given knowledge, our God given insight to really take a closer look at the story to realize the process in it and the transformation. Um, if one wanted to start a garden, you would begin maybe by looking it up, reading about it, becoming more knowledgeable about whatever it is you want to plant, about gardening, period, the soil, how to create the proper ground for whatever you're planting, uh, and you would go about it in that manner. And every step you took would be progress. Uh, you working the process. So you have your garden, but you're following a series of events uh, in order to create the full manifestation of the garden to the point to where you decide this is what you want for yourself. You decide that it's yours, and working the process all the way to the point to where you are actually enjoying your garden by plucking whatever it is you planted, actually partaking in the fruits or the vegetables that you grew. The same manner applies to wealth, assets, and resources when it comes to the principle of wealth transfer. We have to know and become aware that God says that He gives us the power to get wealth. Uh, so by proxy, He gives us the wealth, but we have to take a closer look and realize that it's the power to acquire the wealth that God gives us. And um, that's done on purpose, I believe, because there's something much more profound, much more priceless in the power that God gives us. It's a state of mind, it's a consciousness, it's an awareness that God wants us to possess. Uh, and that is the focus on the power that He gives us. And we, being co-creators, being His beloved children, can take that power and apply it in any direction we so choose. And we can use this power in the avenue of wealth, assets, and resources to possess it. So that's a pretty potent point right there on God giving us the power to get wealth. So then that means it's in our hands. It's up to us to take the power, take that which He gives us, which is His power, and then begin to use that ourselves to uh, begin the process, the journey of the acquisition of wealth, assets, and resources, the wealth transfer process. Now, it's also imperative that you come to know that wealth, assets, and resources, finances, money, however you want to label it, um, already exists. It already exists. Whatever it is you are wanting, believing for, visualizing yourself having, the good life in all of its components: houses, cars, clothes, vacations, whatever the case may be. Uh, it would behoove you to know, to meditate upon the truth that these things, these things that you desire, as well as the state of being. What state of being? This state of being wealthy, the state of possessing assets, the state of possessing resources in abundance, in overflow, already exists. You simply have to step into the state. First of all, be aware that it already exists, and then enter into that state. Also knowing that, again, the things that represent wealth, assets, and resources to you already exists. They're already out there. Someone already has it. So knowing that, you now become more familiar with the transfer process and all of its variables. It's really infinite in its capacity to be transferred to you. But the most important thing is that you know it already exists. The promised land. God told the children of Israel. We love this story. We love this story. It's very inspiring to those who desire to be blessed by God in wealth, assets, and resources, extravagantly. Those who desire to be extravagantly blessed by God. We are so inspired by this story. We love to hear it. The children of Israel and their journey from poverty to abundance. I've heard many people tell this story, and the quickness that they apply when they go from explaining how the children of Israel were in the wilderness and then in the promised land, like voila, poof, is astonishing. Because once I began to read it for myself, because I wanted to know the surrounding circumstances involved in this seemingly epidemic adventure, I realized something. I realized the process. God showed me the process of wealth transfer. Now you have to remember, and it's up to each individual to interpret the parable how they see fit, however God reveals it to them. But I want you to take a different perspective, take a different look from a different angle, so that you can really know it. See, not just know of it, but know it, like David knew his slingshot, like Adam knew Eve and she conceived. I'm talking about knowing it for yourself. I can explain to you the principles of balance as it applies to riding a bicycle all day, every day. And you will believe that you have a thorough understanding of it, a thorough knowledge of it. But until you get up, get on a bike, take the training wheels off, and start pedaling, you will not, and continue with it, be steadfast in it, you will not know balance on a bike. So we're talking about you knowing the wealth transfer process for yourself. Again, back to the children of Israel. They were wandering in the wilderness. God told them about the promised land and told them it was theirs. And it was theirs in principle. And God gave it to them through giving them the power to acquire it. The power, specifically the power to eradicate the inhabitants. You have to remember the promised land was inhabited. It was current when God told them that the promised land was theirs. It was inhabited. People lived in it. People were already possessing it. And they went in and uprooted them.